Welcome to the Bible Difficulties and Answers podcast. I'm Lance Smith, your host, guided by Scripture and fueled by an insatiable curiosity, dedicated to unraveling complex philosophical puzzles with a touch of spiritual insight. We're now in week 16 of our 20-week Sunday series, and today we're pressing forward into section 4 of J. Steve Miller's Faith is Not Blind. Pages 89 to 91 bring us to Exhibit 16. Many people of all vocations and levels of education report a compelling first-hand experience with God. These aren't abstract theories or second-hand tales. They're vivid, personal encounters that bridge the gap between intellect and intimacy with the divine. Let's paint the picture. Imagine a towering intellect, surrounded by the weight of philosophical tomes, suddenly confronted by a presence that words can barely capture. Or picture a man at rock bottom, scientifically minded and skeptical of anything supernatural, issuing a defiant challenge to the heavens, only to be met with an overwhelming response. These stories come from unlikely sources: a renowned philosopher and the co-founder of a global recovery movement. They show that God doesn't discriminate by resume. He shows up where He's invited, transforming lives across every background. Page 89 introduces Mortimer Adler, the philosopher at large, prolific author, and longtime senior editor for Encyclopedia Britannica. Adler believed in God as an abstract concept from his philosophical studies, but it didn't compel him to worship or pray. It took a compelling first-hand encounter to add personality to his mental picture of God. After a trip to Mexico, Adler became seriously ill and spent 5 weeks in a hospital there. A pastor visited him and prayed for his recovery. According to Adler, he choked up and wept. The only prayer he knew word for word was the Pater Noster, the Lord's Prayer. On that day and in the days after, he found himself repeating it again and again, meaning every word. Quite suddenly, when he was awake one night, a light dawned on him, and he realized what had happened without recognizing it clearly when it first occurred. Reflecting on that event, Adler wrote this: "Dear God, yes, I do believe, not just in the God my reason so stoutly affirms, but the God to whom Father Howell is now praying, on whose grace and love I now joyfully rely." Now, some might describe this as a leap of blind faith, but Adler didn't turn off his brilliant mind or make a blind leap to believe in a personal God. Instead, the experience seemed rather passive, like the bridge was crossed from the other side. Rather than a direct apprehension of God, in Adler's case, it dovetailed with a first-hand, dramatic experience. Page 90 transitions to An Alcoholic Finds God, the story of Bill Wilson, co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, a raging alcoholic who tried everything imaginable to get sober. Everything failed, and he considered having a longtime friend institutionalize him for his own safety. Ebby Thatcher, who had shown up at William's house sober, shared how he had found sobriety. Ebby recounted the story of a group of alcoholics who traveled to Switzerland to seek help from the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung. Although Jung's efforts failed, he told the alcoholic that sometimes sobriety came through a religious conversion experience. Ebby had joined the Oxford group in New York, a Christian fellowship made up almost exclusively of intelligent, educated sobriety seekers. The principles of this Oxford group were adopted as the famous 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Proud of being thoroughly rational and scientific, Wilson felt that religion was the alternative. Finally, he issued this challenge where he said, If there be a God, let him show himself now. And show up he did. The resulting experience, complete with a room filling with light, an enveloping presence, and a vision of himself on a mountaintop, left him feeling profoundly free. He immediately lost all desire to drink and would never touch alcohol again. Page 91 continues. After reading similar conversion experiences and William James's, that's America's most eminent psychologist at the time, The Varieties of Religious Experience, Wilson felt more settled about his experience. Naturalism should provide evidence that Wilson's experience is better explained by supernaturalism than naturalism. But note that this was much better explained than just an emotional changing something in the sense of a warm, fuzzy feeling. It was empirical, with powerful, empirical, lingering results. No more drinking, similar to our direct apprehension of a physical world outside of ourselves. For Wilson, coming from a totally scientific, anti-supernatural bias, what he deemed sufficient evidence convinced him that God exists. He didn't believe in God by blind faith. Rather, he believed because of what he deemed sufficient evidence. These accounts highlight how first-hand experience with God transcend vocations and education levels, from Adler's intellectual world to Wilson's gritty recovery journey. Miller argues they're not dismissible as delusions, they're transformative, empirical encounters that align with theism better than naturalism alone. Skeptics might appeal to psychology or coincidence, but the lasting change and rationality of these believers suggests something more profound at work. So, the big question, do these compelling stories from diverse lives strengthen the case for God's reality? Miller invites us to rate it. 0, not convincing at all, to 10, totally convincing. Where do you land? I'll go first. Adler's sudden dawn of realization and Wilson's white light freedom resonate with me. They echo times in my life when prayer wasn't just words, but a bridge crossed by grace. Not dramatic visions, but undeniable shifts. Have you ever had a first-hand encounter that felt undeniably real, changing your path forever? Let me know. Email me at bibledifficultiesandanswers@gmail.com or join the conversation on our Facebook page. For further seeking, see Dr. Craig Keener's experience that took him from atheism to theism at the link provided in the show notes. Or check out the biography Frances Hartigan wrote of Bill Wilson's experience in Bill W., a biography of Alcoholics Anonymous co-founder Bill Wilson, specifically pages 56 to 59. Dive into William James's classic Variety of Religious Experience, which Wilson studied in great detail in his book. He concluded that the life of religion as a whole is mankind's most important function. For more on how personal experiences grow the believer, see Schaeffer's travelogues or archaeological collections. Next Sunday, Episode 17 will explore how many respected intellectuals believe that their line of reasoning is compelling for belief in God. Until then, share this episode, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and check out all our episodes at bibledifficultiesandanswers.podbean.com. And remember, these encounters aren't rare anomalies. They're invitations from a God who meets us right where we are, in the midst of our questions and crisis. I'm Lance Smith, signing off with good luck, good health, and God bless. So long, everybody.